Arvin Baba, Arvin, it is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Really? You're gonna give me that nonsense? I'm the How to Buy a Mansion guy. I've critiqued over 1,000 mansions. I buy mansions from my clients, and you can retain my services for consulting. Link is in the description. My name is Arvin Haddad, and let's watch this rotating roundhouse together.
There are quite a few rotating buildings in the world. Houses for people who want their view to follow the sun. Maybe they're built as an architect's dream house, maybe as an engineering challenge, or sometimes to give the best angles for solar power. This one, near San Diego, California, is now on sale. The real estate agent got in touch and asked if I wanted to have a look around.
Okay, first you should know that it was listed for $5.3 million, okay? And it's sold. I'm not going to tell you the number. I want you to guess how much it sells. I'll give you my personal opinion. I don't like, round houses. I like more masculine facades. I feel like it gives you more protection. This to me looks more like an observatory, right, than an actual house. But what's insane about this house that it literally can circle around 360 nonstop, just around itself, and every room will have a different view. And the owner is going to tell you the actual story of this house. Another element I want to say, he made this video not as a promotion. He does these engineering videos. I think he has since retired. Very interesting channel. I think the way he actually made this video and presented this property helped sell this property, because you're going to meet the owners and they're lovely. They're very interesting people.
To be clear, this is not an advert. They're not paying me. But I just wasn't going to turn this down, because there are two things I want to find out. First of all, how on earth does the plumbing work?
That's a really good question. Not just plumbing, electricity, gas, internet, telephone lines. If it keeps spinning, these connections are going to break apart, right? How are you going to fix this issue? And this guy just comes up with a genius way to fix it. It's really, really interesting.
If this is someone's dream house, and it is, then why are they selling it?
Another excellent question. Whenever you're a buyer, you go to an open house, you're seeing the property you like, you should always ask, remember this, why are the sellers selling the house? And most listing agents don't know how to dance around that question and will give you the wrong answer, and will give you some information that you could use in your negotiations as a buyer to bring the price lower. It's a very, very important question you have to ask. Always ask.
My wife and I decided we're going to build a house. Just so happened this lot went on the market that same day. We happened to see the sign. We bought it. I'm trying to figure out what to build. I said, why not a roundhouse? That way more rooms will have more view. And my wife said, fine. Then I thought, some rooms still have to look at the mountain. So I said, why don't we rotate it? To my surprise, she said, fine. And I thought, crap, I got to figure out how to do that.
Lovely guy, right? Really cool energy. And you can tell he's an engineer, the way he thinks. He's like, why not, right? He starts with the why not. And he's like, why don't we have a roundhouse? Roundhouse would be a good idea. He's not thinking deeper. He's thinking like an engineer. And then engineers always like to solve problems. They like to tackle issues, solve it, and then come across problems. They like that and solve those problems as well. So it's a completely engineering approach to it. I don't know if he's a trained engineer or by trade he's an engineer, but you can see he's a very smart guy. And his wife was cool with it, which is awesome. So here we go.
I started to figure out how to actually build something that would rotate so every room would have every view.
Yes, of course, I asked if I could flip the switch and control the rotation.
Go up to 1,000. Good. That's it.
It's very strange to push a button and then have the world start to rotate around you. That's lovely.
My wife and I started construction in 2000. It took a good 2 years to get to the point where we had a structure. We did hire some people and had them working here, and I found that they would go home at 4 o'clock and I would be here till 7 fixing what they had done, because they're used to building square and this was round. The fella at San Diego County would go over our plans and he says, I just want to tell you, you're building something that's way stronger than it needs to be. No way you can rotate that much mass and have it work. So I said, do you care if it rotates? He says, oh, I don't care if it rotates. And I said, well, then can we just agree to disagree and you let me go ahead and build the damn thing? In doing all the calculations, I came up with needing a 5-horsepower motor. So I put in a 5-horsepower motor. Have you ever driven your car in 5th gear at 25 miles an hour? It goes like that, and that's how the house was moving. Cut it down to a 1.5 horsepower motor that goes through a 25-to-1 reduction transmission, a 71-to-1 torque hub that drives the two 16-inch in diameter wheels. We can turn the house in 45 minutes. You can go to bed to the sunset and wake up to the sunrise in the same bed. You have guests over during dinner. We'll turn the house so that everybody at the dinner table gets to see the sunset.
Okay, how much do you think this property sold for? Make a guess. 3, 2, 1. I'll go first, okay? I would not have recommended a client of mine to pay anything more than, I would say, 1.9 for this house. Now, do you know how much it sold for? 5.1. It listed for 5.3 and it sold for 5.1. Do you think it was worth 5.1? And I know what's happening. Some of my Persian audience in Truesdale are, they're grabbing their cup of tea and, they're like, Arvin, Baba, Arvin, it is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Really? You're going to give me that nonsense? I bet you the first time you heard that, you just thought, oh, that's a cool saying. I'm going to use that in the future. But is it really? Let's look a little deeper. Here's the property, okay? 5.1. First, you should know is right next to it, like some sort of an amphitheater, which is not ideal. You're going to have a lot of noise. You get certainly really good views. And here's the property. Sold for 5.1. Here's the address. 4,700 square foot, 4-bedroom, 4-bath. Now, Zestimate is 342. You should never go by Zestimate. But here's the pictures of the property. It actually sold within a month. It listed 6/17/2023 and pretty much sold 8/21/2023. A month and a half or 2 months. It sold really, really quickly. Let's look at the comps, okay? Let's see if we can find a property. Do you see anything close to $5 million around? I've gone 2 years back to see if there are any sales. Look at this property. Look at this. Which one would you rather have? This has about 9,000 square feet, completely open concept. It doesn't spin around itself though. You have views, but they're not 360 from every bedroom, but you have views. Pretty crazy house, right? This one sold around very similar time for $5.3 million, and it has more than twice the square footage. Let's take a look at this one. I don't think they have pictures of this one. But this one also had 7 bedrooms, 7 bath. It probably sold off market, 9,000 square feet, $3.8 million. So do you still think a property is worth how much someone is willing to pay for it? I disagree, especially in the residential real estate market. Why? You see, that philosophy, okay, that saying only works if you have a very efficient marketplace. And I can tell you, residential real estate is not an efficient marketplace, and is the reason why I've started this channel, if you haven't noticed. And residential real estate has always been a lot less efficient than, let's say, stock market or the bond market, right? For example, the stock market used to be you call your stock exchange person, you tell them a trade, your trade will probably happen at that day, you don't know what time. Then as internet came along, you could execute a trade within minutes of deciding, right? Residential real estate, it's extremely inefficient. The big, huge difference in the last maybe 30 years has been the fact that now pictures are online and they're not in a book. You can look at the price history much easier, but it's still a place where it's very, very emotional. Every house looks different. It's very much so hard to value the properties. So I disagree with that philosophy. You could get lucky, you could get crazy numbers, but that's not the real market. For the purpose of my valuation for this property, I wouldn't have paid more than 1.9 for this.
A lot of rotating buildings, it's only part of the floor that rotates. The things that require plumbing, like the kitchen and bathroom, don't move at all. But here, the sinks and toilets and electrical sockets all rotate as part of the house. And all the explanations I can find seem to hand-wave the details. They just say that there's a central, non-rotating core that handles the pipes. For electricity, there are off-the-shelf components that can deal with rotation.
There's a thing called a slip ring, which is a very standard piece of equipment, just like a merry-go-round. A merry-go-round goes around and around and around, and it doesn't have to go backwards. Same thing here. It happens to be a fancy one, 16 brushes that go around a copper piece about that big, and they ride on the copper, and that is your connection.
Pretty cool. Did you understand it? So you basically, it rotates, but it's because it can maintain contacts the whole time, the electricity flows. Very cool. But what about gas, plumbing, everything else?
There's also an off-the-shelf component, a mercury slip ring, a sealed connector with a small pool of mercury, conductive liquid metal, in the center. Both sides can rotate, they just stay connected to the liquid. But that's not the difficult part. I can understand having one connection going through the middle for water or wastewater or gas. They can just sit on a central pipe and swivel. But how can you have all three going through the same central hub? The topology doesn't work. They can't all occupy the exact center. But if they're offset, then as the house rotates, surely the lengths of the pipes and cables has to change? Or if there's slack, surely they'll get twisted. It turns out OWL has a very clever solution to that.
Obviously, you don't want to mix the gas, the gray water, the sewer, the drinking water. So I designed a slip ring for those services. Big piece of steel.
This guy literally patented a piece. I mean, that's real engineering, okay?
Steel about that big around. This is fixed. We grooved it. It's about a 3-inch by 3-inch groove all the way around. Top groove is sewer. The next groove is gray water. The next groove is drinking water. The bottom groove is gas. And there are holes drilled through this from the sewer, from the gray water, and so forth. They're all separate holes that come out the bottom. Then there's a piece that comes down the outside. This piece rotates with the house. You have a sewer line that comes down and connects to the outer piece. And then you have gray water, then you have drinking water, then you have gas.
So this part rotates and it always maintains a connection to this kind of ring, right? It could be a ring of water, it could be a ring of gas through that indentation on the main cylinder looking shape, right? So these 4 holes maintain a connection with that little, indentation in the main thing. One of them is, water, sewer, drinking water, right? Gas. Is brilliant piece of engineering to fix this issue.
There are seals in between each of these grooves. They're all alarmed. There's a seal, a sensor ring, and a seal. A seal, a sensor ring, and a seal, so forth, for all of them. You would have to have 2 seals and 2 sensors fail before you had any mixture of fluids. The seals are good for 75 years. So I don't think we're going to have a problem.
Yes, I had to commission some graphics to explain this. It's really clever, and I did not understand it until Al explained it to me. It's like 4 intersecting funnels.
The total maintenance once a year is to lube the bearings. We have a young man who has done it several times. It's done in an hour.
Which brings me to the other big question I had. After designing and constructing this place, after 20 years of living here, why sell it?
Great question.
I had 18 heart procedures. My wife is in perfect health. The odds of me outliving her are 0. She was born and raised in Coronado. We're moving back to Coronado because this is a complex house, even though I think it's simple. For her to try and teach somebody else how to run everything and do everything would be difficult.
There you go. That's why you asked that question. This house is obviously, the buyer knew it's not going to be a normal house, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. And when they do go wrong, it's a very binary situation. If that core piece, for whatever reason, earthquake, storm, something goes on that it stops working, you can't use anything in the house. If that piece goes wrong, it shuts down electricity, all the other elements to the house. Finding a specialist, right? He is the specialist. He's the one who created it. And let's say the guy who's done it for the past couple of years, he decides, you know what, this is not for me. I want to go do, become a real estate agent. Okay. You call him, he's like, hey, I don't do that anymore. I'm sorry. You got to find out how to do it. And God bless this guy's soul. He's amazing. But let's say after 25 more years, he's passed away. What the hell are you going to do? You have to bring an engineering team, a consulting team to fix a plumbing issue or an electrical issue, or you have to learn it yourself. So it's a super, super, super tricky house to own. For that reason, I wouldn't value this property anything more than, I would say, it's dirt and the foundation. It has a pretty strong foundation, obviously, for how heavy this thing is and rotating. And I would not touch this house with a 10-foot stick. God bless this guy. I'm so happy he freaking sold it for $5.1 million. Seems like a lovely guy, and it's a great ending to the story. But I think it's a horrible story for the new owner, unless he's a complete engineering geek himself and he's going to turn this property and turn it into even something crazier. 1 out of 10 times this might happen. You might get lucky and find your buyer, but 9 out of 10 times you will get dirt value. And in this case, I was wrong. And I'll tell you, there's times that I get wrong, but I look at probabilities, okay? I don't value properties based on chance. When the chances are like 1 in 10, that doesn't really factor into my valuations. Now, if you like me to evaluate a property, you're trying to give a bridge loan, a hard money loan, or if it's a dispute between two people who want a third party to give you unbiased valuation on a property, feel free to reach out to me. The description right below. And if you like this house, this other house is very funky. Check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the comments. Take care.